Hey, this is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about what you need to know about romance scams and how I'm going to relate this to credit repair. Because we all know that when these people end up getting scammed or people end up getting scammed and taken advantage of by these online romance scammers, they end up ruining their credit. They end up running up credit card bills. They end up uh, overdrafting their checking account. They end up getting multiple credit cards. I think there was one that they showed on documentary my wife and I watched a couple of weekends ago, where this individual had this young lady get like 10 different credit cards and loans and all types of stuff. And person ends up having ruined credit from this, and it could be devastating to people. And usually, this is what we've always had to deal with credit repair. Was the one that we had to deal with the most that was outside of the individual uh, having the credit, was where a parent or someone either used their information when they were a kid to get utilities and stuff like that, or that someone co-signed for another individual, and we were having to work with them on repairing their credit. And for the ones that had the parent that used their social security number to get credit, those were ones where that was an ID theft type situation. And a lot of the children were afraid of saying, okay, uh, what's going to happen if I, say that it wasn't me. And I say, well, if it's done right with the right paperwork, you don't have to, reveal who did it. It does ask you, but you don't have to. Basically, you just want to have them prove that it was actually you. And for those situations, a lot of those people were underage, and they were like, there was just no way that they would be able to have that credit at that age because they wasn't even legal. So now let's get into it here. What's happening, and it's happening around the globe, but globe, there's in all different countries where people are being scammed by people who are, contacting them or coming into contact with them from these dating apps, and they're like slowly maneuvering them to get into the position to try to take money from them. So I ran across this on the FTC website because it's becoming just a huge, huge problem. And I, I think that I need to make a video on it to kind of put some attention on it, because one thing that when it comes down to these types of scams, and I don't even know if the FTC really, really gets it, but it seems like they're trying kind of, make some some inroads on telling people how they can avoid it. But this comes down to emotion. This comes down to need. This comes down to more than just money. When an individual is trying to, they feel like they're lonely. They feel like they want something new. They feel like, they want to see what's out there. Uh, People lose a little bit of reality, and they start to dream and think of things that could be better, which is, these are things that we all uh, can go through. And so it makes it to where people will pull down their guard, and, people are not just running up to them saying, hey, give me your money. They're actually taking time. It's like they start working them, and then they start to figure out ways to see if they're going to be able to get money out of them. And I bet you that there's a lot of people that don't end up falling for it too, but we only end up hearing the stories of the people that fall for it. So here on the FTC website, they're just talking about some of the lies that scammers tell, how to avoid losing money to a romancer, and how to report a scam. So I want to kind of let's go through them real quick. Some of the lies, it says that they often say that they're traveling outside the United States. We've heard about scammers who say that they're working on an oil rig in the military, a doctor with an international organization. We've heard about scammers asking their targets for money to pay for a plane ticket or other travel expenses, pay for surgery, other medical expenses, pay customer fees to retrieve something, pay off gambling debts, pay for a visa and other official travel documents. And then they try to have people wire money or load cards, gift cards, all that type of stuff. And it says here Google Play, some of the vendors and iTunes, I'm not really that familiar with that type of stuff. And let's go into here, how to avoid them. Says how to avoid money to a romance scammer. Here are bottom lines. Never send money or gifts to a sweetheart you haven't met in person. And also, in that one uh, documentary, the person did actually meet them in person. But what you have to do is you have to pick up on the signals that the individual is kind of like when if you haven't seen it before and it's been on the news and everything, when the person came, he had an entourage of people, number one, and it seems like he was always in a rush to get somewhere else. Like he was there for one night and then gone the next night, or there for 2 days and then gone the next day. And really, what was happening is he was going to see other people that he was scamming. So you have to, this here is, some people step up their scam game and they start saying, well, I'm going to meet the individual so they can believe in it even more. And then if you suspect a romance, they say that you should stop communicating with the person immediately, talk to someone you trust, and pay attention to your friends or family. And that's because they could see from the outside. They could say, hey, this person is scamming you, be careful. You can also research individuals' information. Everybody's stuff is really out there in front. You can look up their YouTube. Uh, if they're on YouTube, you can look up images on Google. You can look up their Facebook page. You can look up their Instagram page, and then all these other apps. And then you can look up profiles to see if they have multiple profiles. So you know that there are ways that you can kind of find out more about the individual. And then they say here how you can report one. Let's see here what they say. If you feel that, well, let's just go through this real quick. They say that over $201 million was lost in 2019. I think that number even went up in 2020. And it says here if you want to report, has here ftc.gov/imposters. And in aba.com/engagements. I guess that's where they're wanting people to go to so they could see what they can do. Now, let's talk about what you need to do if you find yourself in that situation. Hold on one second. Okay, so now this is the form that I would like for you to use, and I'm going to put a link to this form, or you could just type this in on Google, this part right here, and it'll bring up this form. Now, you might be saying that you wasn't a victim of ID theft. I know that you're not a victim of ID theft, but you were a victim of fraud. And what we're trying to minimize, or what I'm trying to help you minimize, is that if you've gotten loans, if you've gotten credit cards uh, in that individual's name, I mean, in it for that individual that you thought was someone that you're going to be, in a relationship with, you can potentially uh, get everything canceled out, but you're going to have to submit documentation for it. Now, for individuals who had their Social Security for them when they were a kid, this form will just, cut to the chase and get everything taken off your credit reports and get the debt canceled out also, and that debt would be canceled out, and it cannot be used as income to you because of the cancellation, because you were a victim of ID theft. You never benefited from it, even though if you were a kid, you benefited from the electric. That's why sometimes we telling people, your parent maybe, they didn't do it to hurt you, they did it to kind of help the family situation. But that's a personal decision for people, especially knowing that if your credit is screwed up because of that, it can cost you thousands of dollars over the lifetime of you going out there getting credit. So for there's a couple of things that you'll need to do if you were where you were a victim of fraud, where you went out there and maybe you used your credit cards on an individual, you got loans, you just went crazy, you lost your mind, and you went out there and got all of this stuff. You fill out this form here, but when you get to the part about the explanation about the fraud, is where you're going to put in there what happened to you. And you're going to need to use text messages, everything that you can. Like, this is where you're going to, in a way, you're putting up your argument on why you don't believe that you're going to have to pay that debt. Uh, and this information, when you fill it out, is going to go to the FTC, so you can put it on record. You're gonna also send this to each of your credit card companies or any loan companies, and you're gonna send that to their fraud department, so you can kind of let them know that you were defrauded. Some of the times they might say, "Hey, you know that you're responsible for 100% of it." Because you were the one that filled out the forms, you were the one that used your information to get approved, and you were the one that gave that individual access. The terms of the service says that even if you get a credit card for someone, if you're the master account holder, you're responsible for any charges that they have. But because this is so prevalent and this is happening all over the globe, these companies do understand, and there are uh, situations where they will either work out something with you, or they potentially might have some type of insurances to back them up. Where if you were to sign a police report or some type of affidavit with them, that I don't know what they're doing with it, but they're able to either build a case or they're able to do something with it. Because in that documentary, uh, when one of the young ladies, that they showed where they were tracking this individual, and they knew that he was up to this stuff, and they were trying to put a stop to it. And uh, you know they even know that it looks, I think from my memory of the show, some of the amounts with certain credit cards the young lady didn't have to pay, and then with other ones she did have to pay. I think that if she was to take this step, that there would be some potential relief, either with settlements, or if you're just going to participate 100% in any type of lawsuit, like you sign off and you say, I will participate with any lawsuits that come about from this individual doing this to you and to other people. So you're going to fill out this information. You see that it's asking you for, ID, asking you for the accounts. They want you to list the accounts and the information there. You should do for this. If it was just straight up ID theft, you don't necessarily have to do a police report unless you just want to make it more official. But for something like this, you do need to make a police report. You do need to report it because it's going to make it like it's more serious. And then you can see here where you sign and then you submit this. You're going to need to make copies of this, and you need to send it to each of your creditors here. Um, and you need to make sure that your story, if you need additional paper, you need to write it all out so you can have a chance at potentially getting it either canceled out. It's always a potential that it can be canceled out, especially if you show that it hurt you so bad financially that you're not even going to be able to get out of this debt. So maybe you write on there that you opened up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different accounts. Like one of the individuals in that documentary, I think, had opened up 8 different accounts, gotten all of these loans and credit cards. And so you could, you can state that, and they could see that you're basically going to be bankrupt, and you might potentially have to be filing bankruptcy. So I will say that before, this could be something that you could try before having to file bankruptcy, because a lot of people that end up in that situation just don't have the kind of money that they ended up spending on there. If it's an amount that you don't want to, that you don't need to go file bankruptcy, then, this would be an option that you could potentially get relief in the form of where they cancel it out and you agree that you're going to help them track this person down, like you're going to give them all that information. And the next part would be that, you know, maybe you can end up getting a good settlement on it, because they're going to, probably try to hold you to the terms of the service of the use of the credit card. So I hope this information was valuable to you. This is happening all over the place. I mean, it's, happening more than I even thought about it, I guess, because I wasn't really paying much attention to this type of stuff, but it's out there. Uh, if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video that what makes us different, where I detail our 8-point validation process and our 2-phase settlement process. Also, if you need your credit reports and scores, please go to the website your3scores.com. And as always, if you need help with fighting debt collectors, I have my 3-pack of letters. Those are free below this video. My cease and desist collection activities letter, debt validation letter, and statute of limitations letter. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please hit the notification bell to get notified of new videos, and make sure to ask your questions and post your comments. Thank you for your time.